Okay, hello. I'm going to show you some stuff about going from 3ds Max into Substance. I've got a few things to check off my checklist for you guys. I'm not going to do a whole lot of show and tell in 3ds Max because this is about the texturing. But know that when you are in the software, what you want to be able to do is get your objects separated and based on materials that you anticipate to put on them. This is a first round. After going a couple times at it, I realized I could probably change some things, but I've got the basic object set up in a way that'll make sense to me, and I have it broken down in general by surface types. I could break the wheels up a little bit more if I wanted to, but it's already got enough complexity, and we could do a lot with just masks inside Substance. So one of the key things I want to make sure is that you keep your naming conventions going, because that's so critical as it goes forward down into projects. So I've got this minecart color-coded by material, and each material is named so that I can find it in Substance and attack each one as I need to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and export this thing. Export selected. Make sure you do selected, that way you don't export everything else in the scene. We'll put this in the minecart project that we have going on. Got a couple others already. Let's go ahead and call it minecart Substance 01. Hit OK, just pops up. Let's see, everything looks good here. We want to have turbo smooth. We want smoothing groups. Actually, we don't need turbo smooth, I don't believe. And we don't need to convert that. So go ahead and keep that. Go ahead and turn it back on. Keep that going. It'll pop out. Now we go into Substance, which I have already got open. In here, when we get the model in here, we'll go through the different views. Just a quick little thing to get going. First things first, we're going to a new project. Since we're building this for Unity at the school, we'll go ahead and use the Unity template. Another one you can use that's pretty generic is the where is it? They're roughness coded, roughness anisotropic, and the glossiness. All these are different, give you different kinds of way the light reflects off the materials and gives you different kinds of ordering groups when you actually output your materials and your textures. We'll go ahead and use Unity, and we don't have anything to add to it, so we'll hit go get our minecart Substance. Go ahead and hit OK. Now our 3D object is actually in the scene. We can actually navigate. I'm using the Alt button along with the left mouse button to get an actual camera rotation, middle mouse button to pan, and right mouse button to scale. Same kind of concept over here. Middle mouse button to pan, mouse wheel to zoom, right mouse to zoom, left mouse will rotate the canvas. F will lock in your camera to your object just real quickly so you can move around. Now that we got our cart in here, what we need to do is get our cart actually a part of the actual world and get our texture set up. So we go to texture set settings. The UI, by the way, is very aggressive about shelving things, so you can have all kinds of different ways of locking things out. Every menu is accessible either through this side here, which is mostly what I use, or through up here on the top pull down menus. So going through here, what we got to do is get everything set up for our painting. And so the first thing we'll do is bake our mesh maps. In here, through common, since we do not have a high poly model, we're going to go ahead and use our low poly mesh as a high poly mesh. If we go into here, since we had our 3ds Max all colored up right here, we want to show that also in Substance. And so we go to the IDs. Instead of vertex color, we'll show material color. And then we click on apply, because otherwise it just goes to what are layers selected. And so we apply to all, and then we bake all our texture maps. Actually, I'm going to hit cancel real quick. And I'm going to go to the project window in our shell so you can see what's going on here. And let's go ahead and start that again so you get an idea of how everything's painting. While this is being built, you're going to see maps fill up, and there'll be maps for every piece that we need. That'll be an ambient occlusion map for every one of our objects, a color map for every one of our objects, curvature, normal map, position, thickness, and wheel space. And all these maps, all these 2D textures help us create a 3D look on our 3D object. So we'll just give this a second. I don't have a pause on my recording screen, so we'll just have to hang out together for a little bit while I chat. The neat thing is that since we're using this sRGB8 format, that's going to allow us when we export, it's going to allow us to actually compress a lot of these maps that we're creating into a single texture, so that we can access 3 or 4 of the actual color channels, the RGB and alpha channel, to input into our texture or materials into the game engine. Really cool stuff. I think we're getting close here. The key thing about this is that you have to go through the texture set settings and you have to bake your mesh to actually get real good colors and controls in your actual layers and layer sets. The software doesn't know where the cart sits in the actual scene space. You will get some funky results. And if you watch, you can probably see how some things are starting to show up around here. So those are all of our maps. We're done with these right now. Alright, so every one of our different materials has a map, has a set of maps associated to it. The ambient occlusions, the color maps, those are the ID maps that we create in 3ds Max. Curvature maps, the normal maps, position, thickness, world space, and all these things help the software know where the object sits in space, where the object has all its pieces sitting together. And over here in our texture set, we go through here to get to the actual ability to put materials on our object. So right now we don't have anything on it, so if we go into our materials tab in our shelf over here, we got some real simple stuff going on. Let's go ahead and let's go right at the caps, these little boxes right here. Got the caps layer set, texture set selected. These are the actual UVs that were set up in the model when we got this project started. And of course we want to make them gold. Since they all share the same material ID, they're all going to be easily slapped on there. And so now just those 4 pieces have that nice little carat of gold. So keep going forward, and since I have such horrible tastes, we'll kind of just go crazy with it. Okay, here's an exciting thing about this texture set. So now that we're in the wheels texture set, I can go into layers, and this is the actual aluminum insulator that I would put onto this object on our wheels. So if I go into the 2D texture side, what I can do is move the actual location of the UV coordinates on it. I can also scale this, and I'm using shift to keep the scale in uniform. If I go and probably hold alt, I would imagine I'm going to get that's rotating. So there's probably ways to actually scale uniformly, non-uniformly, and such. So just kind of explore and have fun with it. Keyboard shortcuts are the way to the future. Everyone's doing it. So just be hip like everyone else and don't ask questions. Alright, so we're just placing this here. I doubt I'm going to keep this texture on here, but I just want to show you how quickly and how easy it is to get some things on here. Now I've got some textures that I want to throw in here as well. So let's go ahead and see if we can find some, let's go to the smart materials. These materials are pretty wicked. I don't know enough about them to get too deep into it, but I know that if I go just the aluminum insulator, there's not a whole lot added to here. If I even go back up here to the gold caps, gold pure, it's just a layer on here. I can add things to it, which we'll get into in a little bit, but I just want to kind of throw this extra bit of information in here so you can see it. Let's check out this whole damage texture and put it right on the body. It's taking a bit to think. Or I need to do something else. Well, clearly I need to do something else because it's not showing up. So let me figure that out later. We can quickly just go ahead and get rid of something as quickly as we put it on here. That's weird. I've never seen that before. There it goes, thinking. Alright, so steel work. So now we got a steel texture on here. And in the smart materials, the reason why I want to show you is that we have different controls and different aspects of how we can access different fundamental parts of this object and the surface that we just put on it. And we'll get into more of these things later. The key thing to remember here is that this software works mostly on the actual masks area. If you remember how we worked in Photoshop, we build a layer, we build a mask on top of it, And then this software attacks the actual mask itself and goes through and adds more filters and different kinds of math aspects into it to really get some cool changes and unique opportunities. In each one of these things, when you find a mask editor, you can play around with it. You can play around with these different things and get different effects. I'm going to find a texture that I'm much more comfortable with. Kind of add it in here as we go. Back to materials. Let's go ahead and make this material a little beat up. Alright, so quickly adding some fun things into here. Diamond plate, we'll scale that down. Also, a key thing to remember is, can I get there? There we go. Think about how your UVs are lined up in your 3D software, and that way, you know, as you work in these two different applications, you'll get a sense of how you can actually make this all work a little bit better. All right, let's go back into our, let's see if I can do this in the material set. So go in here, I'm going to go to our clearly I was going to make wood at one point. Go in here, steel. We'll add a fill layer. We're adding it to our one layer here. So in our fill layer, which is just basically an added mask to our layer, I can come into here and add some different variations into it. So what I want to show you now is how we can bring an image into our project. So let's go back to our project folder in our shelf, and I'm just going to have that open for right now. What I'm going to do is go into edit, excuse me, not edit, I'm going to go into file, and I'm going to import resources. This allows you to import different things on top of your object space, and what we're going to add is a couple of bitmaps that I found. And we're just going to place these things onto it arbitrarily, have some fun with it a little bit. Pick this one, and let's see if I can take two at the same time. I can take two. Bring this in. First thing we want to do is they're undefined is what they're being read as, and we're going to go ahead and make them texture and texture. You can make them outfills, cutouts, and environments. There's specific things you need to keep in mind for each one of these. Read up on them before you just start clicking buttons, because you won't get the results you want. The software has very specific needs. Now we're going to ask where do we want to put it. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in current session. I'm going to say import. It's going to throw it into a folder. I always have a hard time finding it all the time, but it should be at least in the project folder. If not, let's go back where that was. I wonder where you put yours. Let's go ahead and click on all, and we'll find it. There's a ton of stuff in all of this in here. Ah, there we go. There's one, and there's the other. Sweet. So let's go ahead and kind of get this thing set up. What I want to do is see if we can at least add one. We may not be able to add two yet. I haven't tried that yet. But I'm in my fill layer in the actual texture set. This is actually below this layer, so I may actually see if I can put this above the steel, which I did. Now what we'll do is go back in the fill, and I'm going to go ahead and click on base color. I should be able to drag this thing right on top of here. And now we've got our base color clicking on our map. So we'll go ahead and come in here. I wonder if there's a way to tile it or not. If we need to, we'll figure something out in terms of tiling. One suggestion is that we get this whole thing set up, and then we can mask the pieces of the rest of it off. So let's quickly how to do an image. I'll add to it just real quick on how we can get things into it. What I've been doing in the past is actually make images for this whole entire piece that I'm going to work on. I'll refine this and give you more details in a little bit, but in the meantime you can always just hide this and put it below. We'll work on getting these things as alphaed out and things of that nature. Just give me a few more days to work on it. That's enough for right now, and I'll get you guys more recordings soon.